All right, eyes ready.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem. Welcome to Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, where I review, recommend, and interview seasoned and new authors and discuss any and everything literary. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing the best-selling author, Barbara Jo Williams. Barbara Jo is a motivator, author, editor, proofreader, publisher, publishing consultant, and a motivational speaker living in Tallahassee, Florida. She has published multiple titles for herself, including fiction and nonfiction. Welcome, Barbara Jo.
Hello, hello. Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
All right. First question, Miss Barbara Jo.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us, when did you become an author and why?
Ooh, let me see. I started writing my first book in November 2003, and it was published in November 2004. And the title of that book is Forgive Us This Day. I really started writing, like I said, November 2003, because I'd always wanted to be a writer. I was always been a big reader and always wanted to write, but just didn't have the courage to do it. But then, after my mom passed and I became a mom, and I started thinking about, the things that I had wanted to do that I had not done. And at the top of that list was write a book. So I came up with this storyline, and I just had it in my head for probably weeks before I finally shared it with my husband and told him that I had an idea that I wanted to write but wasn't sure if I could do it. And he just looked at me and he said, Barbara, as much as you read, you should be able to write something. So I just said, you're right. So the next morning I got up, I turned on my computer, and I started writing. And I just wrote down all the ideas that I had for that story. And by the end of that week, I had like about 10 or 15 pages. And I just took all those notes and put them into chronological order and started writing my story.
Okay. What makes you the motivator?
Because I spend a lot of time trying to inspire other people to write. People come to me with their questions and their fears. And so I try to inspire them and motivate them to write and share my story with them about, how it took me. Someone asked me the other day, how old were you when you wrote your first book? I said, well, I was 42 years old because it took me that long to get up my courage to write. So I try to be the motivator for other people who are interested in writing or fulfilling their dreams. So I try to share a lot to keep them inspired to write. So people just started calling me motivating. So I adopted that title, The Motivator.
Oh, okay. Who is Barbara Jo the author versus Barbara Jo the editor?
Well, Barbara Jo, the author, is all about romance. So most of my books are romance books. I have a few nonfiction titles, but they are self-help books to help other authors as far as writing, publishing, and editing. Barbara Jo, the editor, is the one who helps other people get their books out. So, if you're ready to publish and you need an editor or a publishing consultant or something like that, then that's when my editor side kicks in to help you get your book out, help you get your book right, and help you get it out.
Okay. Well, with that being said about publisher and publishing consultant, what is
Mhm.
the difference between a publisher and a publishing consultant?
Well, as a publisher, if you come to me, you're asking me to publish your book. That means, whatever's required to get your book from manuscript to a book format that's available for purchase. But as a publishing consultant, it's my job to walk you through the process to help you self publish. So you're going to be the publisher. You're just paying me to be your consultant to help you take your manuscript to a published book that's for sale that you control completely, and you have all the rights to it. You understand the difference?
Mhm.
Okay, so it's a difference in me as a publisher and you as a self-publisher. Because a lot of people want to self-publish, but they don't know where to start. So they'll come to me and they say, well, I want to self-publish, but I just don't know the steps. And so I just guide them through the steps, and they have complete control.
Okay. What does TAN, TAN, mean?
TAN is the Tallahassee Authors Network that I co-founded in 2008. It's a group of local authors who are published as well as unpublished. And we also have some readers in the group who are not interested in publishing. They just come to support the authors, and they are avid readers. So we usually meet every other month. As a matter of fact, we have a meeting this Saturday. So we usually meet every other month. We get together and we talk about what we're reading, what we're writing, and just kind of, network with each other and help each other as far as beta readers, give each other feedback on what we're writing and what's going on in the writing world.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not a writing group. It's not a writing group. It's a networking group.
Networking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, we're coming up on half a year now.
Mm-hmm.
What have you been doing as an author?
Well, actually, as an author, I haven't done a lot of writing. I have like 3 projects that are in the works, but none of them are complete at this point because I've been flooded with editing. So for this year, the editing has been a priority.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So once I get caught up on the editing projects, then I'll try and get back to my writing projects and get those out. That's one of the joys of being a self-published author. You don't have a deadline. You can, I can write when I want to write. I can publish when I want to publish. So whenever my books are ready, I can publish. I just try to manage my time between, writing, editing, and promoting.
Okay. What inspires you to write?
Just life, people that I meet in general, and I see their stories and I wonder, what if this happened or that happened? Just seeing people, just knowing people and the problems that they're facing and the issues that they have. And I might see someone and I think about what they're going through, and I might put that into a story, work that into a storyline some kind of way. Or anything that's going on. It could be something I've seen on TV or something I've read in another book that gives me an idea, and I think, oh, okay, let me think about that one.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had a reader to give you ideas? Have you ever tried to
Yes, that's a good question.
readers?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that because the last book that I wrote, well, not the last one, the book I published for Christmas, A Cougar for Christmas,
Mm-hmm.
I had posted something, I can't remember what the post was, and a reader said, "Oh, you should do a story about a cougar." And I said, "A cougar? I don't know if I can do a story about that." But then I thought about it. I said, that's a good idea." And it was coming up on Christmas too, and I had been thinking about doing a Christmas story. So I said, "Wow, well, maybe a cougar for Christmas." So she really inspired that idea, and that gave me a whole short story for Christmas.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
you can read that. Yeah, so that whole idea came from a reader. Believe me, I had no idea about writing a story about a cougar.
Yeah. What are your topics or themes of your book?
Well, when I started, my main theme or topic was about married couples. My first book was about a married couple, and I wanted to do a romance novel that focused on a married couple because at that time when I started writing my book, most of the romance books that I was reading were about single women looking for love in all the wrong places or whatever. So here I was, a married woman, and I wanted to read a story about a married couple that that were going through some problems, but they were still determined to stay together. So that's how my first story came about. And so my first 2 books were really about married couples. And eventually I wrote about some single people because of my readers, but still my main thing is writing about married folks.
Okay. What did you do before you became a writer?
Before I became a writer, I was a teacher. I was a business ed teacher, and then I went back and got my master's and worked as a guidance counselor for years. So I spent almost 20 years in the public school system as either a teacher or a counselor.
Oh, really? What grade? What high school?
Before I became high school, before
Really?
I taught business ed classes, and then I went into guidance and counseling and taught counsel high school students.
Mhm.
And I mainly work with seniors a lot and help them get scholarships.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there a difference between being an editor and a proofreader?
Yes, there is a difference between an editor and a proofreader. The the editing process is more vigorous than the proofreading process. You know, the editor is the first one who sees the manuscript. So the editor's job is to look for the big issues in the manuscript.
Mhm.
And the proofreader's job is just to come behind the editor and look for things that the small things that the editor might have missed or the author missed during the revision process.
Okay.
So the proofreader has an easier job, much easier job.
Oh, okay. Okay. What has been your most accomplished goal?
Ooh, what has been my most accomplished goal? I don't know. I guess just publishing the number of books that I did. I never thought I would have 30 books. So when I hit that 30 book mark, I thought that was quite an accomplishment because when I first started with that one book, that was all I had in mind was that one book. But then my readers started asking for another book, and so I did a second book, and I just after that it just kept growing and growing. So I was like, wow, when I got to 30 after 15 years, that I thought that was probably my biggest accomplishment.
Okay. What is your purpose in writing?
Well, my purpose for writing fiction or romance novels is simply to entertain my reader and encourage them or inspire them to believe in the power of love, romance. I've always believed in love and romance, and I know a lot of people say, well, I'm just, I've been divorced and I'm going through things, but I've seen people divorced and married again, but I still believe in the power of love and romance. So that's what I try to convey in my fiction. And what I try to do in my nonfiction is help other authors to improve their writing, uh, explain the editing process, and help them self-publish the right way.
Okay. Okay. Now tell us about your YA book.
I have a 4-book YA series. It's called Bell Bottom High, and it is set in the 70s. And the main character's name is Reese Jones. And what I've done is followed Reese through each year of high school. So the first book covers her freshman year, is Freshman Fears. The second book is Sophomore Sorrows. The third book is Junior Jewels. And the fourth book is Senior Sins. So each year, we have a different situation for this main character, Reese Jones. And so that's been out a couple of years now, and it's been doing very well. So I don't know if I'm going to do a sequel. I was thinking about doing another 4-part series and doing her in college, so she would be in college in
Yeah.
the 70s or early 80s. I think the book started like 74 and went to 78 or something like that.
Yeah.
So she would start college like in the later 70s and finish in the early 80s. So anyway, that's one of my project ideas for the future when I have time to write that I can work on.
Well, as a matter of fact,
What's that?
I just finished the series.
You read the whole
Day. I started like 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, and that's one of the series we're reading in one of my book chats.
I think I know which one you're talking about.
And I've been in a reading slump, and
Yeah, you told me about that.
they was like, well, Barbara Joe's book is coming up. I was like, yeah. And so, since I've been home a couple of weeks sick,
Mm-hmm.
I've been actually laying in the bed reading, but I didn't tell the book group.
Gotcha.
And so the other day they was like, "Where you at, Queen?" I said, I kept saying. And Ellen, of course, said,
Mm-hmm.
"Are you finished those 4 books?" I was like, "Yes."
Yes.
They were like, "Wait a minute, but you've been in a reading slump for the last 2 weeks." I said, "And I've been laid up for 3 months, so I had 3 weeks, so I
Yeah.
had a chance to read, and I read all 4 in the last 3 weeks. I just
Wow.
finished up this past Sunday. Now I'm trying to sit down and write my reviews."
Okay, I was about to ask you if you was
Yes,
gonna write reviews for all 4
I got
books
my
now.
notes. I got my notes for the book
Okay.
discussion. Now I got to go back and I got all my notes for the book discussion,
Mm-hmm.
and then where my thing? Got my notes for
What
the
you
book
got?
discussion.
Oh, okay.
All my book discussions,
Oh my goodness.
and so I got all my notes for the book discussion.
Okay.
We're about to have next week or next week, I think it is. But now I told myself, well, this weekend I'm gonna sit down and write all 4 reviews.
Okay.
So
All
yes,
right. Well, I'm glad you finished the series.
yes, yes. Okay. Are there any book events that you have for this year coming up that you would like to talk about?
Let me see. The only event that I can think of right now is October. It's in October. I'll be in St. Louis at the Brad Retreat, building relationships around books.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I'll be at that in October in St. Louis.
Okay.
I think that's the only book event I have left for this year.
Okay. And before we do our little fave, I do my little
What?
I have like a little favorites I do at the end.
Oh.
And so my last question would be, what is next for Barbara Joe, and how can the readers get in touch with you?
Well, like I said, I don't know what's next because I have a few projects ideas. I did A Night to Remember, Another Night to Remember, and so I have a third book that I'm thinking about for that series called The Last Night to Remember.
Oh,
And I told you I did a cougar for Christmas, so
yeah.
I'm thinking about expanding that story because readers were like, "Well, what happened after Christmas? What happened on Christmas Day? You didn't tell us what happened on Christmas Day and after that." Something about expanding that story, and I also have an idea for a short sci-fi story. So I'm kind of stepping out the box and trying to do a sci-fi story that I have an idea for.
Oh,
So I really started working on that one. I'm thinking about releasing that one next because it's a short story and it'll probably be the easiest one for me to finish and get out there. And then, as I said, the YA series for Reese Jones, I might take her to college for 4 years in the 80s, Black Power, power to the people, for her. So that's what's next. And, the best way to reach me is I have a website, is Barbara Joe BARBARAJOE.webs.com. That's my website. You can reach me via email, Amani Publishing at AOL.com. That's AMANI Publishing at AOL or gmail.com. And of course, I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook as just Barbara Joe. I'm on Instagram as Barbara Joe Williams. And I'm on Twitter as Barbara Joe 22. So if you're on social media, that's the best way to reach me or follow me.
okay. Okay, let's play the favorites. What is your favorite scripture?
My favorite scripture is John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave us his only begotten son.
Favorite perfume?
Oh, now that's a hard one. But I'll say Eternity by Calvin Klein.
Okay.
It
Favorite,
never goes out of style. It never goes out of style. Eternity.
uh, favorite restaurant.
BJ's. It's
Busy.
just BJ's. Yeah, BJ's restaurant. You never heard of that?
No.
Okay, well look it up. BJ's. I call it. I said those are my initials, so that's my restaurant.
Uh, favorite book that you wrote and why?
Oh, favorite book that I wrote and why? I always get that question. I have to say it's my first book, Forgive Us This Day, will always be my favorite book because it was the first one. It gave me the courage to do all the others.
Okay. Do you have a favorite snack when you write
Uh,
or edit?
no, not really. I don't have a favorite snack when I write or edit, but I do like chips. I'm prone to potato chips, so I like kettle chips. The
Oh,
hard ones. Yeah, I tend to like kettle chips. But when I'm writing, I don't really snack. I don't listen to music. I like silence and all of that.
that'll be my next question.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. Favorite character and why of one of your books?
Favorite character in one of my books, again, I would have to say, Elise from my first book, because that first character, that first book was based a lot on my life. So that main character in that book was a lot like me. So that's probably my favorite character because it's the closest one to my personality.
Okay. Well, is there anything you would like to say before we conclude?
Well, I just want to thank you for the interview. I want to thank all my readers for following me and staying with me for these years. I have been doing some online classes too via Facebook, and I started, I think, in January. I did the writing and copywriting class, and then I did uh, what was the second one? What was the second class? Oh, marketing. I did a class. I did A to Z marketing in February, and then in March I did the self-editing tips. And so April 4th, I'm doing 25 self-publishing mistakes to avoid. So if you're interested, the deadline is Friday, and I have the information on my Facebook page. But the deadline is Friday for the 25 self-publishing mistakes to avoid. So if anyone's interested in self-publishing, I have a list of 25 mistakes that I can help save you thousands of dollars. So, you might want to participate in that class.
Okay. Do you have any of your books that you would like to show before we end that you have on your person right now?
No, I don't have a book that I can reach right now without going off camera. But if you go to Amazon, all of my books, I have an Amazon authors page. So if you put in Barbara Joe Williams, you can go to my authors page and all my books will come up on that one page.
Okay. Okay.
So that everybody can see all my books.
Well, thank you, Miss Barbara Joe, for coming in and letting me interview you. I call you my mentor, and I love you so much. And I thank you for calling, checking up on me for
Oh,
the last
yeah.
couple of weeks. That really meant a lot. And thank you for letting me interview you again.
All right.
And this is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Have a blessed day, everybody.